Do you feel drained from trying to control everything? Relationships, outcomes, and even fears that have not yet come to pass? Welcome to Stoic Quotes, where we dissect the thoughts that exhaust us and hand you simple tools to live lighter, calmer, and stronger. In today's video, we will journey through 5 core thought groups: control and letting go, inner peace, discipline and growth awareness, and mindset and courage and resilience, each accompanied by specific practical techniques for you to use starting today. In this video together, we will explore the topic, the 30 Stoic quotes that will rebuild your mindset. I have curated 30 quotes for us to analyze and contemplate the values of ancient philosophy, specifically Stoicism. I have divided them into 5 parts with distinct themes to clearly illuminate these aspects. Prepare to reset your life's compass from the onion-peeling technique for worries to the art of the sacred pause. Everything is practical and easy to apply. If you want to shift your perspective and start acting differently, hit like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell. Let's explore deeper together. I have always believed that true maturity begins only when one realizes the limits of control. Throughout my life, I have observed a paradox that holds true for everyone. We suffer most, not because of what happens, but because of our desire for things to happen in a certain way. That is why, upon stepping into the world of Stoicism, I found my first clarity in this powerful quote. What you control is your strength. What you don't is your freedom to release. I realize that human strength lies not in grasping everything, but in the capacity to discern what truly rests within one's hands. When facing a challenge, you can pour your energy into resistance, anger, and blame, or you can calm yourself to ask, what is my province and what is the world's? When we understand this clearly, we no longer chase illusions, nor do we pursue the indefinite. We grow strong not because we possess more, but because we know when to let go. Sometimes the very moment of letting go is the moment we become free. I recall a time when I struggled to cling to relationships, opportunities, and images of who I thought I had to become. Each time I felt drained. This deepened my understanding of the next quote: detach from the outcome, focus on the action. Human beings are often so obsessed with the result that they lose sight of what they are doing and why. We project into the future and imprison ourselves in uncertain expectations. I only truly changed when I learned to detach myself from the outcome. When I focus on the action, on what I can do right now, I find it easier to breathe. Then success or failure becomes merely a natural consequence of the process, no longer a verdict hanging over my head. I realized a truth: when we do not demand that life repay us, life returns to us more than we asked. But to act rightly, the first thing we must do is master ourselves. This leads me to reflect on the quote, to master the day, first master your thoughts. Each day is a life in miniature, and thought is the root of all action. I have always found that when my mind is in chaos, my day falls apart. When my thoughts are lucid, the whole world seems reordered. If I begin the morning preoccupied with worry, with things beyond control, I carry that burden all day long. But if I start by calibrating my thoughts, distinguishing what is essential from what is mere noise, I can walk through the day with agency. Mastering one's day is not achieved through physical strength or dramatic goals, but by grasping the source thought. The mind is the guide, and if it wanders down the wrong path, we cannot expect life to take us to the right place. When I was young, I was often governed by fear. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of loss, fear even of things that never happened. But then I encountered the quote, fear fades when you face what remains within your control. Fear thrives only when we gaze into the uncertain. But when we return to what is graspable, fear begins to dissipate. I will never forget the first time I dared to face a major upheaval in my life. Instead of dwelling on the myriad terrible things that might happen, I asked myself, what can I do right now? What can I change within my small sphere? What, no matter how hard I try, does not belong to me? When I answered those questions, fear was no longer a giant monster. It became something with a distinct form. And when fear has a form, we can face it, put it in its place, and keep walking. Courage does not appear when fear vanishes. It appears when we are lucid enough not to let fear lead the way. On that journey, I understood another important truth perfectly expressed by the next quote. Clarity appears when you stop trying to control the uncontrollable. Clarity cannot arise while we remain in conflict with reality. The world holds many things that do not bend to our will, what others think, how they behave, how times change, and the sudden events that occur. The more we try to control them, the deeper we fall into chaos. But the moment we take our hands off those things, a new space opens in the mind. The mind is no longer suffocated by resistance. It becomes flexible, clear, capable of seeing through the fog of emotion to perceive the essence of the matter. I realize that life does not demand we win everything. It only demands we do not defeat ourselves by clinging to things out of reach. Finally, I return to the quote that closes this group of thoughts. You cannot control events, but you can always control your effort. Every time I read this, I am transported back to the foundational ground of Stoic philosophy. Life always unfolds in its own way. No matter how intelligent or well-prepared we are, some events remain beyond prediction. But effort, the part that belongs to us, is always a choice. I used to blame myself for failures, thinking that if I were better, faster, stronger, perhaps I could have changed the outcome. But this very philosophy helped me understand that a human being is defined not by the result, but by the sincerity of their effort. When I do my best, the rest is no longer a burden. The result becomes a lesson, an event, a chapter in the book of life. Effort is the only thing that belongs to me forever. These quotes, when viewed as a whole, teach me a profound art of living, the art of discernment. Discernment between what I can do and what I should let go. Discernment between instinctual reaction and conscious action. Discernment between exaggerated fear and faceable truth. Discernment between useful control and the illusion of control. And most importantly, discernment between my own path and the currents that do not belong to me. I write these lines not merely as a student of philosophy, but as a human being who has walked through sorrows very similar to what you are enduring. If you are in a difficult period, ask yourself, what is it that you can truly do right now? What are you trying to control that actually never belonged to you? What can you choose to let go of to lighten your mind? Where can you invest your effort to stand more firmly? I believe that when you answer those questions, you will find yourself far stronger than you ever thought. And that very strength will lead you through every storm, not because you can control the storm, but because you have learned to control yourself. The core message here is not passivity or evasion. On the contrary, it is a powerful manifesto on the conservation of energy. Our suffering stems not from a lack of ability, but from investing our precious life energy into stocks, guaranteed to lose the opinions of others, the past that is gone and the future that has not yet arrived. Freedom is not doing everything you want, but not being enslaved by the things you cannot control. When holding these quotes up against the harsh reality of modern life, I recognize a painful truth that many of us fall into. We are arguing with reality. Reflect on this, my friends. When an event occurs, job loss, breakup, illness, our first reaction is often, why me? It shouldn't have happened like this. That is the precise moment we are trying to control what has already come to pass. If you shoot an arrow, the act of drawing the bow, aiming, and releasing is effort what belongs to you. Whether the arrow hits the mark depends on the wind on the moving target, what belongs to the world. The suffering person is the one who weeps when the wind blows. The free person is the one who smiles knowing they drew the bow with all their might. I call this the pride of the craftsman. We take pride in the lines we carve, not in whether the buyer gasps in awe. To my friends who feel exhausted, who feel like a small boat in a pitch-black ocean, listen to me. Your fatigue is real, but its cause may be an illusion. You are tired not because the burden of life is too heavy, but because you are carrying God's work or fate's as well. You are trying to control the rain while your only task is to open the umbrella and walk. To overcome adversity at this moment, I invite you to practice two things based on the thoughts above. 1. Return the burden to the world. Write down all your worries on paper, then circle what you can absolutely impact right now. What lies outside that circle, others' thoughts, tomorrow's results, imagine yourself wrapping them up and returning them to the universe. Whisper, "This is not my business." 2. Take refuge in action. When fear strikes, ask, "What can my hands do?" Washing dishes, writing an email, taking a deep breath. Fear lives in the future, but your hands live in the present. When you focus on action, fear will starve, for it is deprived of its food, your imagination. When I turned to Stoic philosophy, the first thing it evoked in me was not strength or discipline, but a strange stillness. That stillness was not a silent void, nor was it an escape from the world. It was the capacity to live at the center of oneself, even when life was tilting in unsettling directions. And I began to feel this most deeply when reflecting on the opening quote of this thought group: "The calmer you are, the clearer life becomes." I once lived through periods where my mind was like a water surface swept by strong winds. Every small event made me wobble. Every word from another made me overthink. And then I realized when the water is turbid, it is not because the bottom has vanished, but because the surface is too agitated. Likewise, when the mind is too disturbed, it is not because the truth has become obscure, but because we cannot see through to it. I began to practice stillness, not by avoiding life, but by pausing the flow of hasty reactions. When I am calm, things that once seemed complex suddenly become clear. I understand who is acting out of pain and who is acting out of love, what truly matters and what is merely the noise of life. Calmness helps me view life and view myself with eyes that are neutral yet full of understanding. In that journey to find peace, I encountered a truth that everyone knows but few dare to face. Our minds often suffer not because of reality, but because they endlessly argue with reality. This is subtly expressed in the quote, "The mind heals when it stops arguing with what is." I have suffered many times simply because I wanted reality to be different. I wanted a person to understand me. I wanted an event to go my way. I wanted a misfortune never to happen. But the more I argued with reality, the further I drifted from recovery. The mind only begins to heal when it agrees to stop, no longer thrashing against what has already occurred. This is a form of acceptance, but not passive acceptance. It is an acceptance that creates a foundation for moving forward. When I tell myself that things are as they are, I feel as if a great boulder has been lifted from my chest. That very pause, that cessation of argument, paves the way for healing. For no wound can heal if we keep irritating it with futile resistance. In a world that is always noisy and constantly pulling us away from ourselves, I realize there is a quiet but incredibly significant source of strength: silence. Stoic philosophy expresses this profoundly with the quote, "Silence is a strength to those who know how to listen to it." Silence is not the absence of sound. Silence is the space in the mind we reserve for observing, for listening, for feeling without rushing to judgment. I used to fear silence, for I viewed it as the void of loneliness. But the more I matured, the more I understood that silence is not the enemy. Silence is where we return to meet ourselves. When I learned to listen to silence, I began to recognize the quiet voice of intuition, of wisdom, of emotions that needed to be understood, but were obscured by the noise of life. In silence, I hear clearly what I truly want, what I should let go of, what I fear facing, and what I yearn to become. Strangely, I only find my truest voice when I know how to be quiet. Modern life seems built to pull us away from the present moment. We are always running after something ahead or regretting something behind. But Stoic philosophy reminds me of a simple yet powerful truth. The present moment is enough if you choose to be in it fully. In truth, the present is always enough. But we do not see its fullness because we are not present in it. I have eaten meals without knowing what I was eating because my head was busy thinking about tomorrow. I have sat beside those I love while my mind was elsewhere. I have worked without feeling the life flowing through each passing second. When I stop and truly live in the moment, everything becomes strangely rich. A breath can become a remedy, a glance can become motivation, a moment of stillness can become a sanctuary. I understand that fullness comes not from having more, but from deeply feeling what is already there. When I choose to be in the present moment, I feel life is no longer lacking but becomes complete. However, that peace cannot arrive if we keep chasing things that do not belong to us. The final quote in this group touches upon a very human truth. The mind becomes peaceful when it stops chasing what isn't meant for it. There are things that no matter how hard we try, we cannot keep. There are people who, no matter how much we love, cannot stay. There are opportunities that no matter how much we desire are not meant for us. Life gives us much, but it also takes away much. And the greater part of pain comes from our refusal to let go of what no longer fits. When I learned to stop chasing things that do not belong to me, my mind became significantly lighter. Peace does not lie in getting everything we want. It lies in knowing how to say goodbye to things that should leave our lives. When we stop chasing, we begin to make space for more suitable things to enter. Looking back at this entire group of thoughts, I see a complete picture of inner peace. Peace is not a gift of luck. It is the result of a process of returning within, recalibrating the mind, and learning to live more deeply with oneself. Stillness allows us to see life clearly. Acceptance stops us from arguing with reality. Silence allows us to hear our own voice. Living in the present allows us to feel fullness. And stopping the chase for what does not belong to us gives us space to breathe. I know that out there, many are feeling their minds tangled, anxious, and weary. Perhaps you are going through a loss, a crisis, a phase where everything seems to be slipping from your hands. If so, I want you to know that peace is still there, not in some distant place, but right within your mind. It has not vanished. You simply cannot see it because your internal waters are too agitated. Allow yourself permission to stop. Allow yourself permission to be silent. Allow yourself permission to accept that things are as they are. When you allow yourself to return to that stillness, you will realize that beneath the turbulent waves, your mind still holds a region of water that is crystal clear, peaceful, and steadfast. I believe that anyone, even those in the deepest pain, can touch this peace. Not by escaping life, but by understanding life better. Not by forcing reality, but by living in harmony with it. And when you can do that, you will begin to live a balanced, profound life no longer easily shaken. You will become your own place of peace. To my friends who feel their minds are like a tangled mess, noisy and chaotic, I know it is very hard to tell you to be calm when the storm is roaring, but you can do this. Practice the sacred pause. 1. When the wave of emotion hits, do not react immediately. Do not send that message. Do not utter that word of blame. Do not make that decision to quit. Be silent. Close your eyes. 2. Name the reality. Instead of resisting, name it in the most neutral way possible. Instead of thinking, "My life is ruined," say, "I have just lost a sum of money and I am feeling afraid." The naked truth is always less terrifying than the truth painted by fear. Return to the sanctuary. Imagine that inside you there is a room that no storm can touch. That is your breath. By simply focusing fully on 3 deep breaths, you detach yourself from the emotional storm and step into that safe shelter. And one final piece of advice for those suffering over a relationship or lost opportunity: trust in the arrangement of things not meant to be. The closing of a door is not a punishment, but a protection. The universe is saying, "This is too small compared to what you deserve to receive, so I must take it away to free your hands for something better." Peace does not mean life is devoid of noise, trouble, or toil. Peace means that right in the midst of those things, your heart still beats a calm rhythm. Do not look for refuge far away. You are your own most solid refuge. Reflecting on the journey of human growth, I realize that all lasting change belongs to a kind of strength that is quiet, unadorned, and does not burst forth in moments of excitement. That is the strength of discipline. Discipline is not harsh coercion from the outside, but the voluntary will of a soul seeking a better version of itself. And the opening quote of this thought group portrayed this with absolute precision. Discipline carves the path that motivation cannot. I used to believe that motivation was what moved people forward. But the longer I live, the more I realize that motivation is like a flame that flares up and extinguishes very quickly. It is erratic, easily lost, and cannot be relied upon for long. Meanwhile, discipline is the pair of steady feet walking step by step, even when the heart is unwilling, even when it rains or life becomes obscure. There have been many days when I woke up wanting to do nothing, wanting to make no effort, wanting to make no progress. But it was discipline that pulled me out of the heavy bed, forcing me to continue, and thanks to that, I gradually felt stronger. Maturity does not come from moments of euphoria, but from the days we keep walking despite being filled with reluctance. Discipline is the path, and motivation is but a passing breeze. When speaking of the path of growth, I always think of the next quote as a vital reminder. Hardships are not obstacles, they are invitations to grow. There were times when I viewed difficulties as walls blocking my steps. I often wondered why life was so heavy, why I had to endure so many trials. But then I realized that it was those very adversities that made me mature. Without suffering, one cannot learn patience. Without failure, one cannot learn perseverance. Without loss, one cannot understand the value of what one has. Each challenge arrives like an invitation letter, a message that we are ready to transform. If we refuse, we stand still. If we accept, we step into a new level of understanding. I no longer fear difficulties. I embrace them as an inevitable part of life. And that very attitude makes me calmer, stronger, and more grateful. When we take responsibility for our own journey, we begin to realize that peace is not an accidental gift. It is the result of choices we repeat every day. This is clearly expressed in the philosophy, peace is not found, it's created by the choices you make daily. I once thought peace was something that came to me when everything around me turned good. But then I understood that peace lies not in circumstances, but in choices. Every day I choose how to think, I choose how to react. I choose what to focus on, and those choices create my state of mind. There are days full of turbulence, but if I choose to remain calm, I can still find stability within. There are days when I feel the world is against me, but if I choose not to oppose the world, I feel my heart lighten. Peace is not a destination, but a way of living. If I build it day by day, it will grow with me becoming a suit of armor that is soft yet solid against every storm. From that foundation of discipline and choice, I stepped into another important realization about the journey of growth. It never happens by luck. The quote, "You rise not by chance but by choice and discipline," reminds me that life does not naturally elevate anyone. People mature because they choose to stand up. People succeed because they choose to repeat right behaviors. People are strong because they choose not to give up when things become difficult. Looking back at the phases of my life, I clearly see that all my progress began with a quiet, decisive moment. The decision to do what is right rather than what is easy. The decision to try one more time, the decision not to let circumstances define me. Maturity is not a gift of fate, but the result of countless conscious choices. Each choice, no matter how small, accumulates into a great transformation. In truth, that process of growth always unfolds slowly. We often wish for things to come quickly, wish for life to change in the blink of an eye. But Stoic philosophy teaches me that sustainable growth is always deliberate. This is vividly shown in the line, "Do not rush. Progress built slowly lasts longer." I used to be impatient when I saw myself progressing too slowly. I compared myself to others, then created pressure for myself. But then I understood that all haste leads to fragmentation. True values are built bit by bit. A great tree grows not because of strong winds, but thanks to every drop of water seeping into the soil each day. Humans are the same. Small, persistent, enduring changes are the changes that possess lasting vitality. When I stopped chasing speed and started respecting my natural rhythm, I saw myself progressing more steadfastly. I learned that nothing worthwhile is built in a rush. True growth always demands that one steps into uncomfortable zones. This is sharply expressed in the quote, "Growth requires discomfort. Comfort requires stagnation." I realize that humans often dream of change but cling tightly to their comfort zone. We want to become someone better, but we dread facing the discomfort of the learning process. We want to expand our limits, but we fear the feeling of instability when stepping out of old boundaries. In reality, no growth comes from comfort. If I want strength, I must dare to endure fatigue. If I want wisdom, I must dare to face what I do not yet understand. If I want confidence, I must dare to step into experiences that make me tremble. Conversely, if I only choose what is easy, I will march in place. The comfort zone is a cocoon, but the cocoon only truly has meaning when we dare to tear it open to become a butterfly. All these things lead me to the final quote of the group, like a complete conclusion for the entire journey of training and growth. You rebuild your life by rebuilding your mindset first. Every time I read this, I feel as though I am seeing an immutable truth. My life is a mirror reflecting my mind. If my mind is full of limits, my life will shrink. If my mind is full of fear, I will live in defense. If my mind is full of doubt, I will not dare to go far. But when I change my way of thinking, my whole life begins to change accordingly. I start viewing challenges with different eyes, start letting go of unnecessary expectations, start acting with clearer purpose. When the mind is reconstructed, action is reconstructed, and life is also reconstructed. All lasting change begins from within, from a mindset that dares to aim for growth. Looking back at this entire group of thoughts, I see clearly that maturity is not a destination, but a continuous journey. Discipline is the companion. Hardship is the great teacher. Slowness is the necessary rhythm, and mindset is the foundation. I write these lines not only as a lover of philosophy, but as a person who has stumbled, who has been bewildered, who has wanted to give up. If you are in a difficult period, remember that growth is inviting you. But that invitation is not noisy. It comes through challenges, inconveniences, and silent daily efforts. Choose to keep going. Choose discipline over impulse. Choose slow and steady over haste. And choose to nurture a strong mind. When you do that, you not only overcome difficulty, but you also step up to a new level of yourself. To my friends who are feeling stuck, feeling that the road ahead is too long and your feet are too weary, I offer you 3 mental pills from this passage. 1. Do not wait for inspiration. If you are waiting until you feel okay to restart your life, you will wait forever. Act in reverse. Act first, feelings will follow. Wash the dishes even if you are sad. Write the CV even if you are discouraged. Exercise even if you are tired. Action creates energy. 2. The small brick principle. The passage reminds us that progress built slowly lasts longer. Do not try to build an entire castle in one night. Today lay just one perfectly square brick. Just one. Tomorrow add another. Greatness is the sum of small things done with extraordinary patience. Change the story in your head. When difficulty strikes, instead of lamenting, "Why me?" try saying, "What skill is the universe trying to teach me through this?" When you view difficulty as an invitation, you shift from passive to active. You are no longer a victim. You are an excellent student in the school of life. Throughout many years of research and contemplation of philosophy, I have always believed that the most fundamental core of change lies in human perception. The external world may transform in countless directions, but the internal world is what decides how we feel, react, and live this life. The mind is not merely a tool to understand the world. It is a mirror reflecting our entire lived experience. Therefore, upon entering this thought group on awareness and mindset, I feel as though I am touching the center of Stoic philosophy, where one learns to look at oneself before looking at life. The first quote of this group always makes me ponder every time I read it. You suffer more in imagination than in reality. I once endured many pains that did not come from actual events, but from pessimistic scenarios I constructed in my own mind. There were nights I could not sleep because I imagined terrible possibilities. There were days I lived in anxiety, fearing failure, even though failure had not yet occurred. I realized that imagination is a magnificent gift, but when we do not control it, it can become the source of myriad sufferings. Reality is often much simpler, but the mind tends to exaggerate insecurity. When I looked straight at the truth, I saw it was not as terrifying as I had pictured. I learned that the majority of human pain comes not from life, but from how they interpret life. And when we control that lens, the pain diminishes significantly. One way to observe the mind is to look at how we react to the world. The next quote expresses this simply yet profoundly. Your reaction is your loudest statement. I realize that our reactions speak louder than our words. When someone insults me, the way I reply reflects my level of awareness more than their action does. When facing failure, my first reaction reveals how well I understand myself. There was a time I reacted with defensiveness, blame, and avoidance, and I did not realize that those very reactions were defining who I was. When I learned to pause before reacting, I found myself maturing. I learned to react not according to fleeting emotions, but according to the person I wanted to become. I am grateful for this philosophy because it reminds me that every reaction is a declaration of myself. And when we are conscious of that, we begin to choose reactions that create strength, not reactions that weaken us. However, to react wisely, we must let go of one of the most dangerous human needs, the need to be right. The next quote opened a new perspective for me. Let go of the need to be right. Keep the need to be wise. In my youth, I argued solely to prove myself right. I viewed being right as a kind of victory, a proof of self-worth. But the older I get, the more I realize that the person who is right is not necessarily the person who possesses wisdom. Wisdom stems from listening, from the readiness to admit fault, from the ability to open one's heart to different viewpoints. When I let go of the need to be right, I felt lighter. I began to learn more, understand others more, and understand myself more. When we place wisdom above the ego, we are no longer trapped in meaningless arguments. We aim for the truth instead of victory. And this shift brought me freedom in thought, something I believe anyone can feel if they have the courage to let go. Awareness and mindset do not stand still. They move according to actions, habits, and how we observe life. Therefore, the next quote in the group becomes a powerful reminder. Nothing changes if your mind stays the same. I have met many people longing to live a different life, longing to find happiness, longing to escape current difficulties. But they still hold on to old ways of thinking, old ways of judging, old ways of viewing themselves. And then they are disappointed because life does not change. I understand that life's change begins with the mind's change. If I view myself as weak, I will act like a weak person. If I view life as unfair, I will find injustice everywhere. If I view the future as dark, I will walk as if there is no hope. But when I change my perspective, everything around me gradually changes too. The mind is the source, Av is merely the manifestation. When the source changes, the manifestation changes. That is the truth I always remember whenever I need to step into a new phase of my life. Changing one's mindset is not just an intellectual process, but a training process. The quote, "Your mind becomes your burden," or your liberator train. It wisely caused me to reflect for a long time on the role of the mind in all human suffering and joy. I realized the mind is like a living organism. If we neglect it, it becomes wild, anxious, and fearful. If we train it, it becomes our strongest ally. The mind can turn a small challenge into a tragedy, or turn a tragedy into a lesson. It can make us depressed when we have many good things, or feel grateful even when facing difficulties. Every day I train my mind with simple questions. How bad is this really? What can I learn from this situation? Am I reacting based on truth or based on fear? Thanks to this, my mind gradually became more steadfast, calm, and flexible. It is no longer a burden, but has become an internal strength, helping me overcome life's fluctuations. In that journey of awareness, I was particularly imbued with the quote, "When you accept reality fully, resistance loses its power." We often suffer because we resist what cannot be changed. I used to spend much time regretting the past, resisting the present, and fearing the future. I fought against the truth because I wanted it to be different. But when I accepted reality as it inherently is, without adding or subtracting, without coloring, without judgment, I felt a strange relief. Resistance only exhausts us, while acceptance allows us to find a new starting point. Acceptance does not mean giving up. It is the clearest state from which we can take right action. When I look at reality with eyes of acceptance, I become stronger. I am no longer someone swept away by circumstances, but someone who can walk firmly on the ground of truth. This thought group closes with a powerfully orienting quote. Your values are your true north. Follow them even in darkness. In life, I have stood at crossroads many times not knowing which direction to choose. There were times I was tempted by easy things, by short paths, by attractive promises. But every time I placed my hand on my chest and asked what values I truly believed in, I found my direction. Values are like the North Star. They do not shorten the path, nor do they make challenges disappear, but they help us not to go astray. When we do not rely on values, we live according to circumstances. When we rely on values, we live according to our nature. Even in darkness, even in confusion, even in failure, values remain a light sufficient for us to keep walking. Looking at this thought group as a whole, I see that awareness and mindset are the foundation of everything we wish to build in life. We cannot control the world, but we can control how we view the world. And when that view becomes lucid, compassionate, open, and steadfast, life also becomes lighter. I write these lines as a reminder to myself and to those who feel lost. You do not need to change the whole world for life to become easier. You only need to change your perspective, and you will find yourself liberated from much unnecessary suffering. Your awareness is the light. Your mindset is the compass. When these two are well trained, you will no longer fear the dark, for you carry the source of light within. Through analyzing and contemplating the quotes of this section together, I can tell you that we should apply the onion peeling technique. When you are suffering, peel the problem into 2 layers. Layer 1, the naked truth. I lost my job. Objective neutral. Layer 2, the woven story. I am a failure. I will never find work again. Everyone will laugh at me. Subjective, full of emotion. Action, discard layer 2. Only process, layer 1. The pause before reaction. Remember the quote. Your reaction is your loudest statement. The next time someone angers you, consider it a test. If you rage, you fail. If you smile and remain silent, you graduate with honors. Calmness is the most devastating answer to chaos. Find your true north. Values when lost. Do not look down at your feet. Current difficulties, look up at the sky. Core values. What do you live for? For love, for honesty, for resilience. In the life of every human being, moments requiring resilience and courage often arrive unexpectedly without warning, and sometimes leave us utterly bewildered. Stoic philosophy, with its calmness and directness, has given me profound perspectives on the nature of inner strength. It is not an outward hardness, nor is it impulsive action in dramatic moments. True resilience is a quiet steadfastness in the soul, even though life may be screaming. And true courage is the ability to stand firm even when fear trembles within us. When I reflect on this final group of thoughts, the opening quote made me revisit many personal experiences. The world cannot disturb you unless you grant it permission. I once lived through a phase where my emotions were controlled by external circumstances. A careless word could sadden me for the entire day. A small incident could make me bewildered and anxious. I allowed the world to define my worth, allowed external influences to steal my inner peace. But when I read this philosophy, I realize that the world only possesses power when we grant it power. No one can hurt me if I do not grant them that right. No event can break me if I do not let it do so. My strength lies in the ability to hold the boundaries of my soul. When I understood this, I began to live with a new sense of agency. Instead of letting life push me around, I learned to stand firm amidst its flow. And only then did I truly know how strong I was. That inner strength is tied to an important quality: strictness with oneself and kindness toward others. The next quote helped me understand this delicate balance. Be strict with yourself, gentle with others. In the past, I used to do the opposite, lenient with myself and harsh with others. But I realized that a righteous life requires us to train ourselves, not to impose that training on others. I need to be strict with myself to become a better version, to maintain discipline, to not retreat before difficulties. But I need to be gentle with others because they too are fighting battles I cannot see. Strictness with myself helps me mature. Gentleness with others helps me become kind. When these two blend together, I feel I am living more fully, more lightly, and also more profoundly. An important part of the journey of self-development is facing and overcoming adversity. The quote regarding this has accompanied me through many difficult periods. Let adversity refine you, not define you. Adversity always has two possibilities. It can make us collapse or make us stronger. What determines the result is not the nature of the adversity, but how we view it. I used to let events define me. I thought I was weak because of failure, unworthy because of rejection, useless because I could not meet someone's expectations. But then I understood that adversity is merely an event, not an identity. It can sharpen me, help me become more mature, more profound, more enduring, but it has no right to define who I am. When I view adversity as a training tool, not a verdict, I find I no longer fear it. Instead of asking, why did this happen to me, I began asking, what can I learn from this? And that very question changed everything. On that journey of growth, there is a moment that everyone must face, the moment we must act despite hesitation. The quote, "Courage grows each time you act despite hesitation," helps me understand that courage does not come from the absence of fear. It comes from acting even while fear remains. I used to think I could only act when I felt confident. But the truth is, if I wait until fear completely disappears, I will never do anything great. Courage grows thanks to small actions. Each time I dare to take a step, though my heart is anxious, each time I dare to speak something important, though my voice trembles, each time I dare to stand up, though I am not yet certain, as a time courage within me strengthens a little more. Hesitation is not the enemy. Paralysis is the true enemy, and courage is the legs that carry me past that paralysis. Maturity comes not only from action, but also from the ability to let go of things that are unsuitable. The final quote of this thought group rings out like a necessary reminder. If it does not improve your character, let it go. In life, I have kept many things simply because I was familiar with them. Relationships that were no longer good for me, old habits, useless fears, goals that no longer fit. But then I realized that life only truly moves forward when I dare to let go of things that no longer help me grow. If something does not make me better, it is slowing me down. If a relationship does not uplift my spirit, it is dragging me down. If a thought does not help me develop, it is imprisoning me. When I learned to let go, I found myself lighter, freer, and also stronger. Because every time I let go, I am opening a door for my better self to enter. Looking back at this entire thought group on resilience and courage, I realize that true strength does not come from flashy actions. It comes from a quiet steadfastness in the mind. That strength appears when we maintain inner peace, when we train ourselves daily, when we let adversity refine us instead of breaking us, when we dare to act despite fear, and when we are lucid enough to let go of things that no longer suit our journey. If you are in a challenging phase of life, it may be that you are standing at the threshold of a new maturity. I write this part as a message to you: you are far stronger than you think. The world has no right to shake you unless you grant it that power. You can be strict with yourself to become better, but do not forget to be gentle with others, for everyone is fighting their own shadows. You can let adversity refine you, let small actions nurture courage, and let the act of letting go open new doors. When you know how to direct strength inward, you will no longer be defeated by what happens outward. Courage is not a destination, it is a process. Every moment you choose to stand firm, you are building a new person, more resilient, more mindful, and living truer to your values. And that very person will carry you through any storm of life. To close this healing journey, I send you 3 practical tools based on this final part. Revoke the license to hurt. Every morning when you wake up or before entering a stressful meeting, visualize yourself tightly holding the key to your soul. Tell yourself, today no one is allowed to enter here and disturb my peace unless I give permission. When someone insults you, smile and think, I refuse to accept this toxic gift. 2. The do it scared principle. Do not wait for fear to disappear. Fear is a passenger in the car, but you are the driver. You still drive the car regardless of the passenger screaming. Practice acting even when your hands are shaking. Trembling is fine as long as you keep stepping forward. That is courage. 3. The character filter. Before every decision or relationship, place the question on the scale. Does this make my character better? If the answer is no, let go immediately. Letting go of the bad is not a loss. It is a cleaning to welcome better things. Thank you for staying with me until the end of today's journey. If these Stoic insights resonated with you, remember this: real change doesn't begin out there, it begins within. Every moment you choose calm over chaos, letting go over clinging, or courage over fear, you are quietly rewriting your own life. If you want to keep exploring Stoic philosophy and turn it into a daily compass for living, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. See you in the next video on Stoic Quotes, where every quote is a small guiding light illuminating the path you walk. Stay steady, every storm eventually passes.